Hello and welcome. In today's episode, I want to inspire you to invest in getting to know more about yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a manager, as a leader, as a technician, in order to do better in business. This is a key area that I work in, getting to know my clients I'm working with strategically and helping them get to know themselves in order to understand the kind of people they need around them, supporting them. So I absolutely encourage you to listen to this one. It is definitely one of those things that probably you don't know, but that when you do know it, it will dazzle you and delight you and really help you move forward with this knowledge that can, as I said, truly help you do better in business. So let's get stuck into it. For more information on this episode or how to work with me, check out the show notes or visit betterinbusiness.global. You've tuned into Better in Business with Jeannie. As an award-winning strategic bookkeeper and business veteran, I am dedicated to helping entrepreneurs learn, grow, and prosper. This podcast aims to challenge your thinking. If you're not thinking the right way, how can you act the right way? Each episode will dive into key drivers of success, which I also call the rules of the game. Learn the rules, play to win. Let's go. I like to start every episode by reminding you that it is globally recognized that pillar one for the success of any business is up-to-date, accurate bookkeeping. If your books are not right up to date, tune into episode 1, please. You can also get in touch with me if you'd like some help. This is so important. I think I first started getting my feet wet in this area about 20 years ago, which is really what I call the psychometric testing area. And that sounds so fancy, right? Like, oh my goodness, fancy and complicated. That's what I would think. But it's not. It's actually simple. There are some really cool, simple tools that I'm going to show you that you can use, either very low cost or free. I've even got one that I've developed myself that you can have access to. But what's the reason that I want you to listen to all this and to consider using these tools? Well, the reason is what I call the you factor. Okay. So I work with lots of entrepreneurs. Some are doing really well, some are struggling, some are somewhere in between. Yeah. And I look at all the different variables that are affecting the success that they're having or struggling to find. And there are lots of things, but one big thing is the you factor. It's you as an individual and the impact that you have on your business and the people around you and more, okay? So when you first understand more about yourself, you're then able to make decisions that really, really can impact the business in a massively positive way. And actually, I've said to business owners before when I am proposing strategic services, I can help you when I understand more about you, and that is where we start. We start with just some really nice, simple, easy psychometric tests. And on the whole, business owners are blown away by them, okay? They're so insightful and they help them understand why they are failing in certain areas and why they are doing so well in other areas. And we are not meant to be all things to all people. We are beautifully flawed humans, yeah? And so this is about understanding your zone of genius, as they say in wealth dynamics, and wealth dynamics is just probably my favorite psychometric tool for entrepreneurs. I think it's just astounding. So it's understanding your zone of genius so that you can work towards a time where you can just sit in that zone of genius. It's absolutely what I do. And surround yourself with people like team, yeah, but team aren't always employees. That's old school, yeah? First and foremost, these days, team is global, yeah? I scoured the globe for one of my teams. She's amazing. She's like an Aussie living in Bali, okay? So we live in a global economy. Team is global, and they're not always employees. They can be subcontractors. They can be suppliers. They can be partners. They can be anyone, and then sometimes they're employees, okay? But what we want to do is surround ourselves long-term with people, even if that's one person or two person, even if they're part-time, yeah, that have the other pieces of the puzzle in order to take care of the things that we are not strong at and we don't enjoy, so that we can simply sit in our zone of genius and play our strengths. An example of how this works, I'll use my own journey and my own business. So I've got a team that spans kind of a couple of brands, 2 or 3 brands, and I have all of their psychometric testing on file, and actually we share our psychometric testing, and when we do like an annual kind of big session where we're looking at the big picture, it's really fun bringing up our wealth dynamic test so that we can see where we're alike and where we're different. And I will tell you right now that no one on my team is anything like me, okay? And that is because at this stage in my business, I have only needed one of me. Yeah, and I'm pretty unique, and a lot of entrepreneurs are pretty unique, and their zone of genius is a really great zone of genius. And so the last thing you need to do is employ more of yourself, and yet I see entrepreneurs with a tendency to employ people like themselves, and that is definitely not what you want to do. So on my team, a lot of my team are actually very similar in their profiles, because I'm filling out my team to take care of the various things that I am weaker in. I'm going to give you an example of how we use this in recruitment as well. Okay, so how you can use it when you're recruiting. Like I said, this stuff is simpler than it sounds, all right? So we do offer recruitment to our clients. We don't tend to advertise it en masse, but absolutely, especially when we're working strategically with clients. I've got a really strong background in HR recruitment, psychometric testing, etc., and I would much rather take care of that for our clients to make sure that they get a killer result, because it is too critically important in many cases to get it wrong, and the cost of getting it wrong, like I could give you the metrics on it, is in the tens of thousands of dollars, okay? So in some of my other podcasts, I've talked about my 5-step operations methodology, which is plan, team, marketing, selling, and standards. And, you know, here we're talking about team, and key people on the team is so important, right? So the impact of using the know you factor. So when we are recruiting for our clients, what we do is, first of all, we get to know the key players by psychometrically testing them, right? So we use 3 tests primarily, and I'm going to give you links to all the tests in the show notes. One of the tests I've created myself, so I'm going to get someone on my team to provide you with that test in order to make sure that you can do that one as well. It may mean that she's got to send you your results, but if you're keen to do it, awesome. So those tests are the Wealth Dynamics test, and a little tip there, if you follow Wealth Dynamics like on Facebook, for example, I find that discount codes drop in and you can get 50% off, because it's about $100 US to do that test, but the 50% off codes are always going. So it's about $50 US to do that test. It's such a valuable test that I do it for everyone on my team. Let's say I do a recruitment push and I get 3 top candidates, and of those I'm like, you know what, I think that's the person I want. I will not press go on that until I've got that person's psychometric test, okay? And with my clients, they find it so impactful as well. They are more than happy to invest a little bit of money in psychometric testing all their key players. And when they do, they're like, oh my goodness. So Wealth Dynamics, amazing. And then the other ones you can get basic versions of free. So there's one called DISC personality testing. That's D-I-S-C. I think that's an excellent one. And I'll point you towards a link for a free DISC personality test. And then the other one is the starter, maintainer, finisher. So The concept is not new, but I'm not aware of a test that you can take. So I whipped up a really simple test that allows me to find out if you are a starter, a maintainer, or a finisher. On the whole, entrepreneurs are usually starters, but not always. So almost everyone on my team is I'm a starter, and almost everybody else is either a maintainer or a finisher, because I'm happy to get the ball rolling, right? But then in one key area, one of my subcontractors that works around brand and graphics, and an area not that I know nothing about, but it's not my zone of genius, right? Like, he is so high end. I didn't want to have to get the ball rolling, right? I don't want to get the brand ball rolling or the graphic design ball rolling. I want him to do that. So he is a starter, and that works exceptionally well. He's also a superstar that does well in maintaining and finishing. I do well with maintaining and finishing because I work really hard on my weaknesses, right? That said, I'm always going to know that my zone of genius is getting the ball rolling. Yeah. And then where I've got like an amazing right hand in my business who is more of a maintainer or a finisher, I can't remember exactly which one, I'm never going to beat her up for not getting the ball rolling, right? So when we know our team, then we know how to build them up and get the most out of it. In fact, years ago, I was running a day spa, right? And this is like close to 20 years ago. And even back then, because I'm a trainer and assessor and I understand the adult learning styles, I would get to know my team in this way, get to know their learning style, and I could take a team member who failed dismally in another business and make her a national superstar, yeah? Honestly, the impact of understanding this stuff's really important, but starting by understanding you. So back to the story of recruitment. So we will first of all psychometric test the owner. And if the new recruit's going to be working closely with the owner, that's really important, yeah? I once had 2 owners in a business, and it was a trade business that did some civil work, and it was pretty down and dirty work, big team, and there was a bit of stress in the business, and the 2 owners did tend to have this way about them that they were just probably, there was a bit of conflict going on, but it was healthy conflict, but still I knew. And then they had a girl in the office that was in the DISC personality profile. She was a high S, right? So that's supportive, but she was also a high I, so she was a chatterbox. So I wanted to get myself someone who worked well with the boys, that were quite rough and ready, communicators, but also somebody who wasn't going to end up in a chat fest with the other girl in the office. So I got myself what's known as a high DC. Yeah, so that is a direct, dominant, detail-orientated person. She was rough around the edges, and she just fit in so well, and there was no chatting in the office because she's not a social butterfly, all right? So that's kind of a little bit of insight in how it can work in your team. You don't need to know everything to get started with this tool, okay? So if you've listened to that and you think, oh my goodness, I have no idea about any of that, that's okay, all right? I'm planting seeds in your mind right now. If you don't know any of that, then this is day 1 of your 365-day lap around the sun, and I'm going to give you ways to start today and actually use this tool to do better in business, okay? So but when we're recruiting, they are the tools that we use. So now on to how you can start using them immediately to really start to plan for your best business, for your dream business in life, okay? So what I recommend is that you jump on and do the Wealth Dynamics test. Invest the $50 US. I don't know what that is, AUD. Last time I did it, it was about $65. So do that, read the results, and be dazzled. Read your strengths and read your weaknesses. Also do the DISC test, so that will be great for you to do to get to know yourself as well, and then do the starter, maintainer, finisher. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Now, in terms of having that help you do better in business, there's a couple of ways that we can do that, and you can do that, okay? So let's say you're a solopreneur with no staff, yeah? Then the testing has just given you an idea of the kind of profiles you're going to be looking for in the future when somebody helps you out. And I'll give you an example just to use a bookkeeper as an example. So let's say you're an entrepreneur that when you do all your profiling, you discover that you're a really social person and you're really supportive, you're not very detail orientated. Let's say you don't really like looking at the numbers, you know, you don't like the project managing, box ticking, finishing stuff, yeah? You're like a visionary, big picture, just want to get the ball rolling, all that kind of thing. Let's say you're looking for someone to do the bookkeeping, and you don't have to psychometrically test a contract bookkeeper, but let's say you were getting someone in-house, then you're going to be looking for someone who's the opposite to you, right? So they're going to be detail orientated. They're probably going to be quiet people. They're going to be great with that box ticking project management. They'll probably be a finisher, that kind of thing. And the great thing about these tools is once you do them and you start to educate yourself around them, because once you do them for yourself, you will absolutely understand a lot more about them. You're going to be able to start to analyze people's profiles without even testing them. So that is something I can do. So when I meet someone these days, within no time, I can pretty much tell you their entire psychometric profile, and the only difference between what I figure out ad hoc and what comes out in the test are just the little things, yeah. And occasionally it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was more there than I thought it would be, right? But I can, through a recruitment process or even just out and about with friends, because it's hard to take, once you understand psychometric testing, it's really hard not to do it with those around you. And it's lovely to understand people more, right? You'll hear me in many episodes talking about seeking to understand. It is so important to understand others around us. It is so important to seek to understand ourselves and others. Yeah, and that is why I find it hard to switch off my psychometric testing brain. Now, if you have a team, this is going to be great because you're going to start to understand why they're doing well in an area they're doing well and why they're not doing so well in other areas. If you've got a team member that's a starter and you get frustrated that he or she doesn't finish things, it gives you some insights. Now, it is not an excuse to not finish things. It can be so that self-awareness piece, like I know I'm a starter, and it means that when I have to finish things, I say, Jeannie, you know that this isn't your strength. You know you need to work at it a bit more. Yeah, you need to sit down, you need to tick the boxes, Jeannie, and you need to get things finished. Yeah, so the self-awareness piece is so important. But there are instances when you really need to take a long, hard look at your team. And sometimes you need to reshuffle the team, even if that's through what's called natural attrition, meaning somebody decides to finally leave because they're constantly being asked to work in an area that's not their zone of genius, right? And when you are replacing them, you're considering a smarter replacement. Yeah? So another example of the power of this kind of thing with your team. So if you're an entrepreneur that's got one or more on the team and you can see the value of seeking to understand them more and getting to know them, another example, so my right hand, like I could already tell you a lot about her profile, but when we got the results of her wealth dynamics, she had this amazing what's called mechanic profile, and I had this aha moment because I'd noticed that she was really great at kind of pulling things apart, like pulling a problem apart and then putting it back together better. Like she seemed to be really great at systems and processes. And the wealth dynamics was like, she's a mechanic. She's built to pull things apart and put them back together better than ever before. These people are ideal for standard operating procedures, right? So rather than just make decisions on gut feel and push her in a direction that I may not be correct about, I get this cold hard proof, and so does she. And we're both able to go, wow, look at that. This is my zone of genius. And she's able to say, I felt like it was, and I've always felt like I could have a huge positive impact on an organization when I work in that area. And now I can see why. And then I can have the confidence to support her in that role, even when it's hard. We can both have confidence to go, you know what? You're built for this. We know you can do it. It doesn't mean they won't need support. It doesn't mean, that you don't need other tools and resources, but game changing. So I'd like to wrap this episode up with just kind of a bit of a rinse and repeat on action. I really hope that you are valuing what I'm telling you here, because even though you might think, yeah, but, I just need to go out and make sales and work hard and get some cash in the bank. That, my friends, is hustle. What I have told you about today is strategy, okay? And as I have talked about in another podcast, one of the big mistakes that entrepreneurs make is focusing all their energy on revenue. My goodness, that is just a massive mistake. Revenue is one piece of a much bigger puzzle. And back to rinsing, repeating on, just ask yourself right now, do you think it's a good idea to get to know people around us? Yeah, it is. And I tell you, when I work strategically with clients that are killing it, cornering their market, yeah, the first thing I want to do is I say to them, I need to get to know you. And then you and I need to get to know your team. And I tell you right now, they are dazzled and delighted and kind of a bit shocked. And they are convinced that the stuff that Jeannie is saying is impactful. Yeah, so this is about impactful. So action items, please do take the test yourself. That is just one step you can take in the direction of working smarter rather than just harder. Check the show notes for those tests. And if you just want to jump on the phone with me and have a chat about this stuff, have a chat about something that's challenging you, I can answer any questions that you've got to see if there's any way that we can help you as well. Okay, we have a lot of planning and strategy tools that you can use one-off or ongoing, okay, so we can talk to you about any of that. But if you don't ask, you'll never know, right? Thanks for tuning in. For more information on this episode or how to work with me, check out the show notes. If you'd like to know how I can help you do better in business, you know where to find me, betterinbusiness.global. See you in the next episode.